the agenda is for this evening. We're going to meet some crazy animals. We have our friend Ben over here from the Forest Park Zoo on the Go. Give him a nice warm welcome, shall we? And Ben was kind enough to bring his intern. Wave to the crowd. What's your name?
Jacob.
Jacob. So Jacob is here. Hey, maybe when you guys are a little bit older, you might want to be an intern at the Forest Park Zoo. I just want to share that yesterday I was in Washington, D.C. I went down for a crazy weekend with some friends. And they have this thing where the orangutans go out on the O-line and they cross over your head. I remember when they first put that up like 20 years ago, and they didn't even think it was going to work. You should have seen that orangutan going over my head. They are so top heavy. Their bodies are just amazing, you know. And they said, what's the allure? What is it that was going to get that orangutan from one place to the next? Grapes. They said every day he wants to go and have his grapes. I think that animals are it's so great that we're living on this planet with all of them. Today I actually was counting the birds as I was walking my dog, and I was thinking there's 8 billion people. Well, there's like 200. How many birds? Like a trillion. It's a lot of birds. I dare you to try and count them. Anyway, so after our friends introduce us to some of the nice animals that they brought to share with us today, we're going to do a short little playlet so that you can get a little bit more information that our friends we've been working on for about a month. It's gonna be kind of fun, and I wondered if I could have a volunteer actually who would want to, Nana, who is a really great reader, Kaylee, or Madeline. Do you want to volunteer to be a skunk? You don't mind? Come with me. Yay! Wait a second. Well, we'll see. We'll try and make it work. So without any more, let's go ahead. Zoo on the go, my friends.
So thank you guys for having us. Like you said, my name is Ben. This is Jacob, and we are from the world famous Forest Park Zoo right over in Springfield. And we did bring along some of our animal friends for you guys to visit here today. Has anybody been to our zoo before? Hey, very cool. A lot of you have. Well, it's a little rainy and a little gross out today, so instead, we're going to see them here at the library. All right? But before we see them, we have to go over a couple of quick rules. Now, it's probably, I know a lot of you just finished school, but it's a lot of the same rules that you probably had in school, all right? So the first one is to make sure that you are staying seated right where you are. Because Jacob and I are going to walk around with all the animals, so you're all going to be in the front row, which means that if it's your favorite animal, you don't have to move any closer. If you don't like the animal, you have to move any further away, all right? There's nobody dangerous, nobody scary today. All these animals are very used to meeting boys and girls all the time. Another thing is to make sure we are staying nice and quiet, okay? Because if it gets really loud in here and you all start yelling and then Pancho starts yelling and I can't tell who's talking, which means if you have a question, what do you think you should do? Yeah, raise your hand, right? And we'll try to answer as many as we can. Now, you're also going to be able to touch some of our friends today, all right? But there are a few things to remember about touching any animal, whether that be a dog, a cat, a shark, a hamster, a dinosaur, a snake, all right? First, you never want to touch an animal near their head or their face. Does anybody know why you don't want to touch an animal near their head or their face? Right, so we have a saying at the zoo that any animal with a mouth can bite. Do you guys all have a mouth? Can you bite? Yeah, so you eat your food, right? Well, our animals, they don't eat fingers or anything, but would you want maybe like 30 boys and girls sticking their finger in your mouth? Or poke you in the eye? No, so our animals don't like that either. So when you feel them, what you're going to do is you're going to feel nice and gentle right on their back. You guys all feel your backbone? Have you ever heard of your spine before? That's a fancy way of saying your backbone, okay? And after you touch the animals, there is one more important thing that we must remember to do. Do you know what that is?
Wash your hands.
Wash your hands, right? Because our animals, they get a little dirty, or today a little muddy. And actually, one of our friends today gets kind of a special dirty. We're going to talk about that, all right? So make sure you wash your hands with some soap and some water, especially before you eat anything, all right? You ready to meet our first friend? All right. Let's meet this guy here. You done making a mess? Step up. Okay. So this is my friend Pancho, and who can tell me? Raise their hand. What kind of animal is Pancho? What kind of animal is he? Right here. What do you think? A parrot. Very good. And is this type of bird that you see flying around here in Massachusetts? Hey, you ever seen a bird like him flying around here? No. So he doesn't live around here. He lives down in Central and South America. Okay? And he is a type of parrot called, let's see if somebody can figure it out actually first. Because you're actually looking at his name right now. Do you know?
A macaw?
He is called, you just grab that a little bit. He is called a macaw, but he's a special kind. He is a blue and gold macaw. Because you can see that all over his body, actually, what do birds have all over their body? Feathers, right? And he has blue feathers on his back, and its fancy way of saying yellow is gold. So he is called a blue and gold macaw, okay? And Pancho is actually a very famous blue and gold macaw around here because on Fridays, Pancho goes on TV, okay? And what he does is if you ever want to write a letter and ask about animals or ask about the zoo, what happens is that we have Pancho's mailbox. You guys can write in a letter. We hold them in front of Pancho, and he picks one out. I answer it, and then as you can see what he does afterward, he kind of recycles it himself over there, okay? So that's kind of fun for him. It's kind of like you boys and girls probably don't know much about phone books, but that's how you used to look up everybody's phone numbers. People don't use them much anymore, so we can give Pancho a phone book because we don't want to destroy like a nice library book. And he will shred that up. So just like when you get toys, you maybe like some nice, fun, bright gadgets that make all sorts of noise. Pancho's favorite toys are cardboard boxes and books because he really likes to destroy those. Because if you take a look at that beak, he has a very, very special beak. He actually has a very special mouth. And inside of his mouth, do you guys see any teeth in his mouth?
No.
Have you ever seen a bird with teeth?
Yeah.
Really? Okay. But what he does have instead is a very special tongue. So can you all stick your tongue out? Can you like bend your tongue and roll around like this? Do you have a bone inside your tongue?
No.
No. But do you know who does? Pancho. Okay. So he uses that tongue to kind of help him when he's eating. Step up. And what that means is when you want to eat something, if you've eaten dinner, you're going to eat dinner later, usually grab food with your hand or maybe hold on to the fork or the spoon and put it in your mouth, right? When Pancho wants to eat, he has to pick it up and put his foot in his mouth. Pretty gross, right? But what he uses that tongue for, it's kind of like an extra finger. So he can like move things out of the way. He can peel the skin off of like a peanut if he doesn't like that. Probably his favorite thing to do is if I give him a few snacks, he likes to shove them underneath his tongue so I can give him more snacks. So he has a very special mouth, and that beak, like we said, it helps him open up things and also it'll help him climb. So he's going to be hanging out here a little bit, probably walking around. He can't fly, but he might dance a little bit or he kind of slides down that ring sometimes. Okay. Now, one more thing about Pancho is a lot of people ask if he can talk. So Pancho can't talk, but what he does is he repeats things that he hears a lot. So if you hear somebody in a weird voice later say, Pancho, it's probably Pancho, all right? So he knows how to say his own name. He knows how to say hello. He knows how to say step up, which is how we can step up on our arm. He laughs sometimes. Usually it's like when somebody gets hurt, he'll laugh. Or if you laugh, sometimes he'll do that. And he learns these because that's something that he hears a lot. So when you boys and girls were little, probably one of the first things you learned to say was your name because you heard it all the time, or maybe mom or dad. So if you come to the zoo every single day and say the same thing to Pancho over and over all summer, probably by the time you go back to school, he might learn that, okay? But we can't make him talk. He just kind of talks whenever he wants to. So does anybody have any questions about our blue and gold macaw, about Pancho? You want to turn around? Hey, turn around. Does anybody have questions when you want to ask about him, like a who, a why, a what, when, where? Yep.
When I saw his legs flip over.
You saw his wings go up? Yeah, he kind of stretches his wings out. You might see him kind of grooming himself too. So he'll kind of, if you see him, kind of looks like he's like biting himself. He's not really doing that. He has new feathers underneath there all the time, and he wants to make himself look really handsome today. So yeah, he sticks his wings out sometimes, or if there's really strong wind, he pretends like he's flying around. Yep.
How old is Pancho?
That is a great question. So Pancho, just like all of our birds at the zoo, used to be somebody's pet before. So we don't know exactly how old he is. We think he's probably about 12 years old. Now, how old are you? 8. Okay. Do you think Poncho would be a fun pet to have at home? Maybe. Well, if you were to bring Poncho home today, Poncho would probably be your pet for another 50 or 60 years. All right. So Poncho can live for a very long time, which means that for the next 50 or 60 years, just like if anybody has a little brother or sister, and sometimes they kind of repeat everything you say, Poncho's gonna do that for the next 50 or 60 years. He's gonna eat a lot of and destroy a lot of wooden things. Okay. He's gonna be very loud. He's gonna poop on your floor. All right. So that's how we end up with all of our birds at the zoo. Is people don't realize how much work that they actually are. But all of our zookeepers have gone to college, so we take care of a lot of our animals.
Aren't they not supposed to be people's pets?
They can be. Yep. They sell them at the Parrot Emporium down in Agawam is where a lot of our birds actually come from. So we actually go back there and get some of the records sometimes. But they're very difficult pets because they do live so long. People actually will pass them often on in their will. And they might not like the next person. Usually birds only like 1 or 2 people at a time. So while you can get a bird like this as a pet, you don't want to take one out of the wild, which maybe that's what you're thinking of. A lot of them are taken out of the wild. We don't take anything out of the wild. They do take quite a lot of work, and they are basically a lifetime commitment of a pet. So Poncho's going to hang out up there, and Jacob is going to bring out our next friend here.
So our next animal is actually a type of animal that likes to sleep all day and is awake at night. So he might be starting to wake up right now, but anyway, we still brought his blankets in case he wanted to get some sleep. This is Patch, the African pygmy hedgehog. And yep, he does look pretty awake right now, so that's cool. And so you might be wondering, is he spiky right now? Like, how am I holding him? Because he's all covered in these spikes. And actually, on the bottom,
There's no spikes.
there's no spikes. It's nice and furry, because even though he doesn't have hair on top of him, he is a mammal, so he is covered in hair. And even these spines are hair. It's just a different type of hair that's a lot harder in order to keep them safe. And I can tell that you guys are all being like really well behaved and quiet right now because he's not curled up into his ball, so that means he's not afraid. And you can see he's actually out right now, sniffing around. Can anyone guess what they think that he likes to eat? Yeah? Fruit? I think he'll eat some fruit and vegetables, but what's something that he would be sniffing around on the ground for? Dina?
Some gloves.
Yeah, bugs. He really likes to eat bugs, so that's what he's doing. If I were to put him on the ground, he'd be walking all around, sniffing, looking for bugs. And you can see as he's starting to calm down, his spines are actually pointing back because he's calm. He doesn't need to stick them right up and think that he needs to protect himself. That's good, because I'm going to walk around in a little bit and you'll get a chance to feel him. Pet him real nice. He is going to do 2 things. He could do a little thing called a hedgehog hiccup, where he kind of like jumps up when you touch him, and that's just because he's trying to scare you away, and it's not that bad. It's not going to like prick you. He's just trying to keep you away from him. And he also might hiss a little bit. The same thing, he's trying to scare you away, but he's really not that bad, right? Yeah. There's a lot of people now, so I guess I'll start walking around. So, like I said before, he's an African pygmy hedgehog. Does anyone know what the word pygmy means? Yeah. Yep. So that means he's smaller than a normal hedgehog would be. Normal hedgehogs that live in like other parts of Europe are going to be about the size of a football. But Patch is nice and small. Another thing that's cool about hedgehogs is even though they are really small and got those little stubby legs, they can actually climb up trees. But one weird thing, they can't climb back down. So instead, what they'll, does anyone guess what he might do?
Yeah, I can.
Can anyone guess what a hedgehog might do to get back down? Yeah.
Jump.
Jump? Kinda. Yeah. Fall? Yeah. He does fall, but he rolls up into his ball like he does when he's afraid. And he kind of, if he was like this high off the ground, like the height of Poncho's perch, he can kind of just fall off. And his spines act like an airbag. And they keep him from getting hurt. Pretty cool. So don't be afraid if you're in Africa and you just see like hedgehogs rolling off and stuff. They're supposed to do that.
That's here. I saw some stuff falling off. That was
Huh?
And it feels good too.
just earlier when you first took him out. There was some spikies coming off of him then, right? Or was that just he was like
That's
shedding?
just his bed.
That's just
Oh,
bedding,
it's
yeah.
bedding. Oh,
Yep, there's a little bit left on the blanket.
ow.
They're not like like a porcupine. If a porcupine pricks you, their spines are made so that they come off. So like sometimes you see like a dog's face folded, but these guys, they're literally just the same thing as hair, just spikier, so they're not supposed to come out. Does anyone have any other questions? Yeah.
They have a similar face to like opossums. Yeah, they related to opossums at all?
I don't know. That's a good question. Do you know, Ben,
What's that?
who they're related to?
They're not really related that closely to possums because possums are going to be our only.
Oh yeah, those are.
Oops. They're going to be our only.
Marsupials.
So I mean, they're all mammals. He's related to some other like little bug eaters, maybe like a little shrew possibly. He's got sort of a similar face there. Yeah. Yeah.
Any other questions? Yeah. You probably used to be.
Yeah, he was somebody's pet. The way that we know he was somebody's pet and not a wild one is if you take a look at his color, you see how he's mostly white with little patches of brown, so he gets the name Patch. He would not be able to hide very well in the wild, but in the pet industry, people like white animals or very light animals. So yeah, he was somebody's pet, and they decided they didn't want him anymore. So that's how he ended up at our zoo, because if he were to be out in the wild, he wouldn't be able to survive very well with his coloration.
So our next animal is a special treat. Are you guys ready to meet a dragon? No, it's not a bearded dragon. It's not a Komodo dragon. It's a Chinese water dragon. His name is Sal. As the name suggests, they're from China and those regions of Asia. And he's called a water dragon, not because he drinks a lot of water all the time or anything, but because he likes to live in rivers, in places like that, or in the trees around rivers. He's not a fish, so he's not swimming all the time, but he can hold his breath for up to 20 minutes. And so he'll do that to get away from bigger animals that might be chasing him, or maybe to catch some fish and eat it. Because, does anyone know the word for an animal? Man, I didn't even ask the question yet. Nice job. That eats other animals and plants. You'll get to touch them in a minute, don't worry. Anyone know that word? Yeah?
Cells.
Huh? Yeah. Omnivore, nice job. So this guy's an omnivore, so he'll eat some fish, some bugs, some fruits and vegetables. Just got a nice new plate of food back at the zoo, so It's going to be a nice thing for him to go back to. And probably one of the most characteristic parts about him that you can see, he's got this really long tail. With the tail, it's like as long as my arm. I think it's going to be about 2/3 of his body length. And so what that helps him for is kind of the same thing as, you see the longest feathers on Poncho? They're the ones on his tail, right? Do you know why those feathers are so long and why our Chinese water dragon has such a long tail? Huh? Balance, nice job. So this guy likes to climb up in trees, and Poncho, as you can see, he's perching and flying, and so that helps them to balance themselves. But there's another cool thing about this tail. If another animal is chasing him, what is the first thing you think that other animal is going to grab onto? Yeah? Their tail, yeah. But Sal is one of a special group of lizards where if you grabbed his tail, it can actually pop off, and it'll still keep wiggling. And so the bigger animal will think, hey, I caught something to eat, and he's going to stop chasing Sal, and Sal's going to be able to regrow the rest of that tail, and he'll be fine. So that's a pretty cool little adaptation to have. And our other water dragon, Sabrina, who's a bit smaller, actually had part of her tail fall off because someone was petting her and they were a bit too rough. And it looks a lot different down at the bottom where it regrew because it doesn't regrow exactly the same. So that's also why our water dragon is going to be the one animal that we ask you don't pet along the tail, because it can take them. Hers was only like this long and it took a couple months to grow back, so don't want them to have to go through that. So I think walk around, have a chance to pet them on the side.
This is your chance to tell everybody that you touched the dragon. Yeah.
It is.
Not Jacob yet.
No, it's target.
Oh.
It's not the same thing as an iguana.
Okay.
It's probably closely related because it does have the crest.
Yeah, they look a lot like an iguana. It's probably a pretty close cut.
And iguanas do like the water.
It's a lot bigger.
Okay.
It's also not, there's like a type of basilisk that can run across the water. It's not one of those, but they do. A lot of people ask if it's one of those. Nice job. Something else that's cool about Sal is you can't see it, but he actually has a third eye. So right in the middle of his forehead, covered by his skin, it's this little gland that can detect if it's light or dark out. So it's not exactly like a normal eye, but it is technically having a third eye.
Just shredding it. He just likes to do that. We kind of discovered it by accident one day, and now it's just kind of something he likes to do. Keep him occupied.
See that little dot right in the middle?
He just likes to make a mess.
Remember, you can't touch it.
No, he's not very good. Not that smart. Maybe he's too smart. I do, yeah. Do you have a cat or dog at home? You have to clean up after your cat sometimes? You have to clean up after your cat
It's one of the like softer
Well,
of
at the
the
zoo, we have
reptiles.
like 300.
That is bugs, spiders, all that stuff, snakes and reptiles.
Does anyone have any other questions about Sal, the Chinese water dragon?
I slid on.
Do you have a question, buddy? What's your question?
Does he change color?
That is a good question. So there's a famous lizard called a chameleon out there, okay? And chameleons are kind of famous for sort of changing color. But that doesn't mean that a chameleon's going to go like pink to orange to green to yellow to white to rainbow. Sal kind of changes color a little bit, but it's more like he goes from dark green to light green. And it's more like a mood ring, which you might not know what that means. But what it is if he's happy, if he's hungry, if he's sad, sometimes it'll be kind of a dark green, sometimes it'll be a light green. So he can't go all different colors, but he's mostly different shades of green. So depends on what kind of mood he's in. But most of the time he wants to stay green because he lives up in the leaves and he wants to stay hidden. So he stays kind of that green mostly, but if he's a little upset, he might be a little bit darker. So some of our other lizards, like our bearded dragons, can do the same thing. Chameleons can kind of do the same thing, but they don't go all different colors. But what's really cool is his back is kind of a dark green, his belly is a lighter green. And he does a really cool thing. If you want to see his belly, he and Jacob have been working on a really cool trick, and we'll see if he wants to do that. Does he want to cooperate? So water dragons, when they go on their back, see how it looks like now he's like gonna take a nap and he's kind of relaxed. His girlfriend does the same thing, Sabrina, where once they're on their back, it's almost like they're hypnotized. They just want to lounge and get some sun out there. So it's just kind of a funny little thing. So if you ever get like a birthday card and there's a lizard wearing a funny little hat and sitting in a chair with some sunglasses, it's probably a Chinese water dragon because they just, once they're on their back, they just kind of, I know. All right, so we're going to let him go back and hang out. We're going to bring out our next friend. So, as Jacob mentioned before, our friend here was sleeping, and we have a few other animals that are usually sleeping during the day and they wake up at night. Does anybody know that fancy word if you sleep all day and you wake up at nighttime? Nocturnal, right? So our next friend, again, normally he's sleeping all day, and right now he's actually being a little crazy. One, because he's nocturnal, he's just waking up. The other is kind of a baby, all right? So this animal was born just this past winter at the zoo. So you're probably one of the bigger groups that he's ever met before, all right? And it's good that we're having very good behavior right now for our friend. Come here. And Pancho's excited. So this is Terrence. And Terrence is not a bunny, not a squirrel. He is a chinchilla. Okay? And what's pretty cool about chinchillas is that Pancho comes from South America where it's really warm. Our hedgehog comes from Africa where it's very warm. Our chinchilla lives out in South America where there are warm parts, but he lives way up in the Andes Mountains. So he lives where it can actually be very, very cold, okay? So to help him, we know that Pancho has feathers, right? We're actually going to be walking right through here, sorry guys. Does anybody know what reptiles like our lizard are covered in? Do you know? Scales, right? What about mammals? So he is a mammal. Does anybody know what do mammals have all over their body? Do you know? Hair or fur, exactly. So all this hair or fur that he has will help keep him nice and warm. So when he is a baby, it's different than a lot of the other babies because if you ever seen like a baby mouse or a baby squirrel or a baby human, they don't have much hair or fur on them. But if you live where it's very cold, he's actually born with fur all over his body. Because if you're born in the middle of the winter where it's really cold outside, you're going to need to stay warm, okay? And the thing that also keeps them very warm, the other thing chinchillas are famous for is being very, very soft, okay? So all that fur not only keeps them warm, but also makes them really, really, really soft. You're going to be able to feel that in a minute, okay? Now, our chinchilla here, at the top of a mountain, when they want to get around, do you think he's a really fast runner? Are there like a lot of nice roads and sidewalks and paths for him to walk on up the top of a mountain? No, there's a lot of rocks and things. So while he can't run very fast, how do you think he might get around from place to place? What do you think? You what? You want somebody to help you? What do you think? How do you think a chinchilla can get around? What do you think? What is it? Climbing? Not climbing. It's close. What do you think? He is a very good jumper. Okay? So I'm not going to put him down, but if I were to, our chinchilla could probably hop back right in my arms or right through that hoop where Pancho is, all right? So they are excellent, excellent jumpers. They're also good at getting to tiny little places. So sometimes it's actually, if you can ask Jacob, he had to go get our chinchilla today, it's very hard to get them out sometimes because they can get into tiny little places because a lot of their body is a lot of fur, which means that they can actually have a smaller body inside and they can squeeze into tight little places, okay? And just like we said, our other animals have a big tail for balance. Same thing with our chinchilla. Because he is a very good jumper, he has that tail, so as he's jumping around, that'll help him where he's going. Now, as I bring him around, you're going to feel nice and gentle right on his back here, okay? You can feel. And he is super, super soft. Now, as you're doing that, what happens is you probably, and don't take offense to this, but you probably have oil and dirt all over your hands. And, you want to feel it? Feel it. You're probably making him feel kind of dirty and gross, right? Now, when you take a bath, what do you normally use?
A bath.
Bath. And you use water, right? And soap. Well, at the top of a mountain where it's really cold, what happens to water when it gets really cold? What does it turn into? Ice, right? Would you want to be able to take a bath in ice? No, you'd be really cold. Another thing is, it would take a really long time for you to dry off. So sometimes your hair takes a long time to dry. Imagine if you were covered in hair or fur, right? It would take a really long time. So instead of using water, what our chinchillas actually will take a bath in? Dirt. Okay? They basically, to get clean, they use dirt. But it's very special dirt because a lot of mountains are made up of all volcanoes. And all the rocks in the volcanoes, what happens is that after a long time, they turn into like a powder or a dust. And he'll roll around in there and absorbs all the oils and everything and all the dirt all over him. And that's what will help him feel nice and clean. So after you touch him, basically to feel cleaner, he's going to go roll around in dirt. All right. And it's really fun to watch him do that because when you go swimming, you kind of roll around probably. You splash some water. He basically splashes all that dust everywhere so that he will feel nice and clean. And those rocks are very special. Volcanic rocks actually even make him look like he was wearing glitter or sparkles all over his body too. So if you ever get a chance, because sometimes people have chinchillas as pets, to see them take a bath, it is really, really funny to watch. And one more thing is, as our chinchilla comes around, you're probably going to see those whiskers moving up and down. So people often ask about his whiskers, why they're moving. The reason is, they are right near his nose. So just like a lot of our other animals, especially when you wake up at nighttime, he can't see that well, but he can smell at night. So every time his nose moves up and down, his whiskers move up and down. And the reason he has those whiskers is they make sure that he doesn't bump into things. So when you wake up in the middle of the night and you're walking around, you want to make sure you don't bump into stuff. You might use your hands to feel where the wall is, right? Since he walks on his hands, instead those whiskers are a little wider than his body, and they tell him when he bumps into stuff with those whiskers, the rest of them's probably not going to fit through there. So if you have a cat at home, and sometimes your cat probably runs around the middle of the night like a crazy person, does your cat have whiskers? They don't run into things as well. So a lot of nocturnal animals will have those whiskers, and that'll help them navigate when it's dark out. So do you guys have any questions about our chinchilla? Do you have a question? Can he hear? What do you think? Does he have ears? Are they pretty big? Yeah, he can hear very well. Because when it's dark out, remember you can't see very well, so you have to depend on your other senses. So he can hear very well, and he can smell very well. Yeah. When he first came out, was he scared? A little bit. He's probably never been here before, so he's kind of like still in training. So you are all animal trainers right now. You can put that on your resume. Because you are training our younger chinchilla to know that when he goes out, nobody's going to try to eat him. There's nothing scary in here. So he was probably a little nervous because I don't think he's ever been here before. But now he's kind of relaxed. You can see he's not jumping all around. His whiskers aren't going up and down as much. So he knows that when he goes out with Jacob or I, that we're not going to bring him anyplace dangerous or scary. Yep.
What is it?
They eat plants. So there's not a lot of food towards the top of the mountain, so they will eat plants. So we said an omnivore eats both meat and plants. Does anybody know what it's called when you eat only plants? You know way back there? An herbivore. Yeah, so he is an herbivore. And one more question, go ahead. Where do you buy them? Well, you can buy them at most pet stores, but if you think a chinchilla is a really fun pet, one thing to remember is that, remember, they are nocturnal. Which means most of the day when you are awake, they're sleeping. When you're getting ready to go to bed, that's when they wake up. Also, they run around your house a lot. Remember, they're really hard to find sometimes. They are pretty fun, but most of the chinchillas, like our chinchilla's parents here, were people's pets before. So that's how we end up with a lot of the animals at the zoo. So you have to learn a lot about them. Yep. I believe about maybe 8 to 10 years. So not a real long time, but for a while. Yep. Do they understand English? I mean, he listens to me. He doesn't know his name or anything like that. So yeah, I don't know. You could talk to him in French too if you want. I don't think it really matter to him. Same thing. If you gave Pancho like a word in German, he'd probably repeat that at some point too.
So we've met animals with feathers, with scales, with spikes, and one that's just really, really furry. And our last animal is one with a shell. Can anyone guess what it is?
Everybody's wrong.
Armadillo?
Tortoise.
Armadillo?
This is Tuck, and he is a big hairy armadillo. I'm not just calling him names, that's actually what they're called. And as you can see, he's covered with a nice big shell. But even though he has a shell like a turtle, and do you know what kind of animal a turtle or a tortoise is? We met one of those, yeah? Yep. Do you think that Tuck is a reptile? What do you think he is? Anyone have a guess?
Me?
Yeah?
He's a star.
A what? He's the same thing as our chinchilla and our hedgehog.
Mammal.
Mammal, yep. You can't see it, but if I were to flip him around, which I don't want to do because he doesn't like to be flipped around, he's got a really hairy belly. So, just like all other mammals, he does have hair. And actually, his shell is made out of the same thing as your hair, and the same thing as your fingernails, and the same thing as a rhino's horn. Makes up a lot of stuff. All keratin. And so, as I'm walking around, do you see his hands? You see how he has those claws on him? Or maybe they're probably nails, right?
Those are nails. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know the difference.
Does anyone guess what he uses those for? Yeah? Yeah. These guys are really good at digging because just like our hedgehog, they like to eat bugs. So that's what he's digging for. And has anyone ever seen an armadillo rolled up into a ball? Yeah. So this is actually not the type of armadillo that can do that. We do have another one named Roll. He's a three-banded armadillo, and those guys can roll up into balls. But his shell isn't made, it doesn't have like the same design, so it doesn't roll up. Instead, as his name suggests, what he'll do is he'll just kind of dig a little bit into the ground and then just kind of stick himself into his hole, and so he just tucks himself into the ground, and his shell's still able to protect him. So that's pretty cool. So, say I'm gonna walk around now.
What we can probably do for Tuck, because he is our last animal, what we'll maybe do is on your way out in a couple minutes, we'll answer questions first. I think on your way out, Jacob or I will kind of stand out near the exit out there, and you guys can all feel him on his back just because it's a little harder to get him through.
Excuse
We
me,
can't
Ben.
hold him out.
So we're gonna do one
Oh.
last little thing.
Oh,
So
okay.
I think that I mean.
Well, all right, then we'll walk around with him. Yeah.
We'll work around.
Yeah,
Sorry about
we'll work it
that.
out. Yeah, why don't you guys, if you wanna stand up, we can do that. You might have to kind of reach a little bit for Tuck here. It's hard to bend over with him because, like Jacob said, he's got those claws on him. If he gets scared, he might kind of scratch a little bit. So we just have to be careful when we're walking around with him. But does anybody have any questions about our armadillo? Do you guys have any questions about Tuck, our big hairy armadillo? Yeah, if you guys didn't get to touch him yet, you can just stay standing,
You want to
and
touch
that way we'll know who. So once you touch him, then you can sit down, okay? But if you haven't touched him yet, you can stand up, so that way we'll know who's not gotten to yet. He feels really cool, so it's not really hard, but I think it's kind of like almost like a football. It feels like, so it does help protect him so that other animals can't get to him. So one season cuts, and then you guys want to take a seat, so we know that everybody gets a chance. Plus, remember that we do have something else coming up for you after we're done here. But does anybody have any questions about Tuck?
So, something cool about him is we met a Chinese water dragon who can hold his breath for 20 minutes. And Tuck here is actually probably the animal that can hold his breath the second longest. Armadillos can hold their breath up to 6 minutes. And so they'll even just walk along the bottom of rivers to get to places. That's pretty cool. And he has a special nose that lets him breathe even when he's all covered in dirt. So that helps them when they're moving around. Just the same way that you all have fingerprints that are unique, the little top plate of an armadillo's head, that part of his shell is unique. So if you felt like you just have a bunch of armadillos for some reason, you can tell the difference between them.
Yeah, just give a small dog. All right, so thank you very much for having us here today. Now that you guys are all animal experts, you can come visit us at the Forest Park Zoo. Like I said, we have another armadillo, we got lots more birds, we have another hedgehog, another bearded dragon, we got camels and donkeys and leopards, a lot of really cool stuff there. We are going to bring our animals back because it is dinner time for them, but I know that you guys do have something else here today, so you can all stay seated and I'll hand it back over to you.
Thank you. Hey, you guys, let's go ahead and applaud. That was awesome. Woo! While they are getting the animals all out, we're going to quietly, because we've been sitting for a while, everybody stand up. Adults, if you have to, you can stand up or sit down, because I know some of you just get a little sleepy this time of night. I know, because my husband is probably sacked out on the couch. So kids, let's just reach up, okay? Reach up. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And then bring it on down. Okay, and then shake your right leg. And then shake your left leg. I want to tell you what we're going to do. So we prepared a play for you guys. We prepared it, so you got to pay attention. No, I'm teasing. Actually, we prepared it and we want you to have some fun because we had some fun putting it together. Now, I was able, because somebody is such a good reader, I have a volunteer to play an animal in my play. Maybe next year when you come to the library and I look and go, oh my gosh, I need a helper, you guys will say, hey, I want to be the helper this year. But this year we have another helper. Give her a round of applause. Okay? And so we've got a few wild animals who are going to be performing, as I said. I'm going to set up the scene for you. I wonder what you guys think this would be. Oh my gosh. So hot. Whoa. All right, so that's one thing. And then I'm going to be over here. And then, are they on their way? They're on their way. I'm going to be over here. So one of the reasons why I like to do plays is I believe that one of the things that all kids should learn how to be is a good audience. It's like a skill set that I think kids in our area don't get as much of a chance to do as in other places. Okay? So are you? Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm screaming. And so I want you to introduce you guys to my friend Therese. She's going to be our narrator for right now. Okay? Come on in, friends. All right? So Therese is our narrator, and I have some other friends here. Come on in, friends.
All right. Thank you all for being here. We had some wonderful animals, and we have said goodbye to them. We hope we'll see them again. Have you ever wondered, if I weren't a human being, what animal would I be? Anybody have an idea of what animal they'd be? What would you be? A cat? How come you'd be a cat? Because you like them. Okay. And how about you over there? What animal would you be?
A turtle.
A turtle. How come a turtle?
Because I protect myself.
Excellent. You had an idea? Yeah, how come?
Because I like them.
There you go. Great idea. I think I would be a manatee because I would love to swim around and squeak in the water. But I have some friends here who are going to share what animals they would be. So let me introduce you. Sammy the snake.
Oh.
Snowy the owl. Frank the praying mantis.
Cricket, cricket, cricket.
Sylvia the bobcat. And Henry the skunk. Today is the first day of fantastic animal summer camp. Sammy snake, Snowy owl, Frank praying mantis, Sylvia bobcat, and Henry skunk are gathered around the campfire. The fire is crackling. The head of the camp, Alice Lion, is getting them ready. Let's listen to what she has to say.
Hello everyone, welcome to summer camp. I hope that you all enjoy it here and get to meet new friends. Let's break the ice. Share your name and one thing you like to do. Frank. Frank, right? Would you like to go first?
Sure. Hey everyone, my name is Frank Praying Mantis. No hyphen, please. 2 names. I like to sit and watch the beautiful forest during the day. I don't like to stand out too much. I like to blend in. Some may say that I like to camouflage myself. Oh, and I have amazing eyesight.
Well, maybe you like to work backstage during camp show. Wherever you are. Snowy, would you like to share?
Yes, well, I too have amazing eyesight. I love taking relaxing flights over hills and fields. It's just so pretty. Most people think I eat mice, but mice are for cats. I will eat mice and other small rodents and rabbits, but my favorite food is lemons. Lemons? Lemons, and they're not just a nice snack, but that's for the birds. I eat them all day long.
But how would you stay so fit?
Hunting takes energy.
True. Henry?
Yes, I'm here.
Yes, we know.
Oh, sorry. I will keep my tail down. I don't really want to stink up the place. You know, if you hold me by the tail, I can't. It's okay, Henry. But I don't want anyone to think I would be a bad roommate, unless, of course, you're a dog. They're just too curious.
Don't like them.
Well, but you're actually kind of cute.
Yeah, they are right, Henry. At our camp, we are aware of our differences and respect them. It sounds like each of us has a special something.
What about me?
Why, Sylvia, of course. I was just getting to you.
So I am Sylvia. I like to move. I'm the big one for exercise. And I don't like dogs either, so we have that in common.
I like dogs.
See, we are all different. Please finish, Sylvia.
So if anyone wants to go for a run with me tomorrow, just meet me at 6 a.m. We'll go for an easy 3-hour jog.
Oh, my.
And finally, let's hear from you, Sammy. Sammy.
Oh. Hi, I don't have any legs. Sorry, Sylvia. But I can swim and I crawl wicked fast. And what I'm most proud of is my jaw. I mean, it's so wide. And I may not have impressive eyesight, but I have a fantastic sense of smell. And I don't like dogs. Just don't like them.
Can't stand them.
Bluff. Hate 'em. I like 'em.
7 weeks later, and summer camp is coming to a close. Let's check in with Alice Lion and see what's happening at their closing ceremony.
Well, friends, it's time for us to part. The hide-and-go-seek contest was won by Frank Praying Mantis. Come on up here, Frank.
Thanks, friends.
The Quidditch champ is Snowy Owl.
Who?
You.
Thanks,
Thank you, Aslan. F4 Avis. The hot dog eating contest was won by Henry Skunk.
What can I say? I love hot dogs, popcorn, pizza, and
Thanks, Henry. And the winner of all track contests, Sylvia.
Just keeping it real. Anyone want to go for a run?
Maybe later. And the winner of the swimming contest, Sammy Snake. Sammy.
Present! I don't really have any ears, you know.
Come get your reward.
Swimming and crawling are reward enough for me.
And hunting is my favorite reward. I love to hunt. Small mammals, big mammals, leftovers. Hunting makes me so happy. Well, gang, where'd everybody go?
the end.
Yay!
Great summer camp.
Come on back here and take a bow. Woo! Yes, a special bow. Listen, coming on into this little group with all of their fanciness, it's really difficult. Do you guys imagine that maybe someday you could come up here and do a play with us? Who would do that? He goes, I don't want it. Anyway, thank you so much for coming. Thanks for paying attention and being an awesome audience. I'm really proud of you. On your way out, Therese has prepared these great activity booklets that you can take home with you. Therese, do you want to add anything about them?
There are activities for a bunch of different ages, and we hope you have a lot of summertime fun with them.
Awesome, that's it. Have a great evening. Thank you. Good job. Good job.